Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
Check. What up, world? It's the man with the plan, Bert McGurk, aka PR, the King of Hearts, and you are now tuned into Clocking Out, the podcast you listen to when you need to get motivated and inspired to doing bigger and better things. What is going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Clocking Out. I'm your host, PR, the King of Hearts, and today I have a very special guest speaker with me by the name of Luna. Luna, how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you for being on. I really appreciate it. I've had you on my list. I talk about this list that I have of people that I've been really wanting to have on the podcast for quite a while now, and you've been on my list for a good while. I've just been trying to work up the courage to ask you and make sure that I have everything properly set up so I can do something nice and presentable for you, honestly.
Well, you're always delivering quality. You're always connecting with people, and I'm really excited to be a guest on your show, and I'm glad we were able to make it happen.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you saying that and for checking out our stuff and always showing love and support. Before we get into anything, I know that you're big on running. I know that you're a mom. I know that you're active in the Web3 space. I also know that you are a member of the VeeFriends community. But before we get into any of that and any of the questions that I have about those things, I want to give you the floor so that you can introduce yourself and give our listeners and viewers and all our supporters a better idea of who Luna is and what you are about.
Okay, thank you. Well, I am known as Luna or Luna M on the Web3 space. But my formal name is Mariel. I am a proud descendant of Dominican parents, born and raised in New York City. I am a mom. I have a son who is very active. And like you mentioned earlier, I enjoy running. It's been a pastime of mine for a very, very long time, since my teenage years. I never did it, as a sport or anything formal until recently in the last year and a half. So just here trying to spread positivity, encouragement, and support in all different platforms and with different tools, if you will.
And beyond your motherhood and running, what are some of your passions and hobbies that you have?
Well, I really enjoy dancing since I was a young little girl. Probably the age of 7 or 8, my mom put me in dance classes, and I've performed on different stages, in parades, television shows, been on a few little, music videos back when cable wasn't even cable.
Oh, man.
So I do enjoy the arts. I love creativity. And so that's a passion of mine. I enjoy dancing, art, painting, drawing, really, and spending time with family, just spending time with individuals, getting to know them and building community. That's really something that I look forward to. Recently, though, because the men in my life, my partner and my son, they're big into golf. And because of last year's training regimen, which was brutal, for marathon, the Philadelphia marathon my first marathon that I ran, I promised them that I'd pick up golf. I've been out golfing with them, or I should say I've been sitting in the golf cart while they golf and just enjoying the scenery. But it looks really fun. And so this year I've been picking up playing golf, and it's been interesting, to say the least.
I've been wanting to get into golf. I haven't gone to an actual golf course or any of that stuff, but I've gone to like the ranges, like the Top Golf and all that stuff. and I love it. I don't know what it is, but I just love it. And I've been dying to actually go to a full golf course and try that out. But again, it's like, it's one of those things that I think it's hit or miss with a few people if they like it or not. And the circle of people that I'm around are not into it whatsoever. So it's been tough trying to go by myself, but I definitely see the interest in golf. It definitely is something that, as much focus or attention that you need to have to it, there's something really relaxing about it. I haven't put my finger on it. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just all the green grass and all the fresh open air or whatever, but there's something really relaxing about it, despite how sometimes it could be a little stressful when the ball doesn't go where you want it to go. But what
Yeah.
was it that got you into dancing initially? Like, and what type of dancing do you like? You know, are you into like salsa, merengue, or just normal dancing, or like what is it exactly that drew you to dancing, and what type of dancing do you prefer specifically?
So, like I said earlier, I'm Dominican, and it's really hard to find a Dominican that does not enjoy dancing, right? So it's in the blood, está en la sangre.
Yo,
And no, my mom just wanted to make sure that we were always active and, just being involved in some type of team environment. So I never really played sports. It's always been dancing. And back then, it was my summer camp, one of the summer camp instructors that decided to do like a little dance group. And during the day, we would have, some of us will do dance, others will do free play. So it was a lot of folkloric dancing. And he was from Chile, I believe. So it was very traditional type of dancing. And my mom saw how much we enjoyed it. And it just kept snowballing into performing at the, local schools. And then we got attention from a television station, and they invited us to perform on stage with some really big named Spanish entertainers. And that was a lot of fun. And, back when I was growing up with the boy bands, the original boy bands, the Spanish boy bands with Menudo
yes.
and doing things like that. And my mom just made sure that we were always active, especially during the weekends. And so then once probably around, I want to say probably around sixth grade, we started taking up jazz. And that was a lot of fun, jazz. And I went to a junior high that focused on the arts, whether it was music, dance, or actual painting, drawing. And so, of course, I went with the dance, and we did jazz and ballet, modern. And it continued on up until high school. It died down because, I was too cool to continue to dance, I wanted to hang out with my friends. I didn't want to give up my weekends and
I
just
hear you.
dancing for hours. But I found myself at the university, and they have a dance troupe. And I said, "Ooh, this looks interesting." But I was a little bit intimidated because I never really had any formal training, where, you see these respectable dancers like, our beloved Peg Moore. I mean, she is a technical dancer with many, many years of experience. So I
Yes.
was a bit intimidated. And I still tried out because I said, what's the worst that can happen? And I got in. And within that group, I learned African dance. So yeah, I went to the University of Binghamton University, and the dance group there is called Black Dance Repertoire. And it was so different than what I'm used to, but I felt like a connection with the African dance and the movements. And yeah, I continued my dancing journey, if you will, throughout college years, served on the board. We were so welcomed that not only did we perform at our university, we were starting to get hired, if you will, or contracted out by local universities. So
Nice.
we would drive up to Syracuse and perform for their events. And it was a lot of fun, made a lot of great friends through it. Um, and yeah, just so movement has always been a part of my DNA.
I love that. I love how you try to find, or many people, especially like your parents, they got you into not sitting around and not being used to just not moving. I believe in that also, and I think that's a huge thing in the Spanish household, especially. They want to make sure you keep active, you're keeping active, you're being productive, and you're not just sitting around. You know, I think that's a big thing when it comes to the Spanish household, and they try to instill that on us to always come up with doing something and being productive, or like you said, just always moving, period. But what I wanted to ask you next is, you mentioned how your son and your significant other go, you know, they like golfing and everything. Is there something else that you do to help you unwind or recharge after a busy day, after training for a marathon, or after dealing with your, you know, daily mother duties and stuff like that? What's something that you like to do to help you unwind and recharge?
It depends on the day and how much time I have. Believe it or not, training for a race, no matter the distance, can be very therapeutic for me. Movement is medicine, and it does help me with my mental health, especially when things get a little too hectic, whether it's work or family or anything else. I find that movement for me is really, really important. So as long as I um, get to, whether it's stretching in the mornings, even journaling, believe it or not. And some of us like to journal with old school way, pen and paper. I'm that person. Um, but you can even do it on your, you know, your phone notes, you know, if you wanted to do a digital version of that. And just for me, reflecting on how my day went, if I'm doing it at the end of my day, like on my way home from work, um, I reflect and and kind of like take an itinerary of how my day went, um, what were my highs in my days, and what were my lows, and why were they my lows? What am I being too hard on myself? Am I not giving myself enough grace? Was it something in my control and I could have done better? And I just use that as a daily practice so that I can improve on not only my character, but me as a person. Um, and so when the next opportunity shows up, I'm able to give a better version or present a better version of myself. There's lessons to be had daily. And I like to use that exercise, whether even if it's 5 minutes before I lay my head down on the pillow. And if it's in the morning, as I'm getting ready for my day, I like to set my intentions. And I just give myself like bullet points, like 3 things I want to accomplish today, and everything else, if it doesn't happen, then it doesn't happen. But I think we have to celebrate our wins, no matter how big, and most importantly, no matter how small,
Yes,
because those are the building blocks to
100%.
getting us to our end result.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I think that's something a lot of us have trouble with. One, like you said, recognizing our accomplishments, no matter how big or small they are. But I think a lot of us struggle with giving ourselves that time to whether it's self-analyze or just acknowledge the progress that we made, or to take note of the things that we can, improve on. So I think that's a good thing to do. A lot of people just tend to, on their downtime, just do other things that will just help numb or forget what the day was like or what they didn't do good at. So I think that's something a lot of people should try to practice more, especially with journaling. I was one person, I was strongly against journaling also. Not really strongly against it, but I fought against it a lot. A lot of people would mention it to me. You should journal, you should do this, you should. And in my head, I'm like, that's not going to help. I don't. And then one day I literally felt like I was just it was just a bad day, and I just found myself getting a piece of paper, and I went at first to just doodling little things, and then I started writing stuff out. And then, it went from just a couple minutes to like 2 or 3 hours went by, and I had 4 or 5 pieces of paper front and back that I read. It went from me just writing nonstop to then making like a list, to then, breaking it down to what it was that was bothering me mentally, emotionally, what I needed to work on physically, financially. Like it just became this thing where, without me really realizing it, I was literally putting out like a plan and a blueprint of steps that I can take to just either help myself feel better or just change the situation that I was in, and plan out to have a better day to avoid repeating having a bad day like I did today. Like those things really help. So I agree with you. I think that that's a very good thing to do, and it helps you self-analyze and improve yourself as the days go on, the weeks, and it helps you notice, because you get to look back and you get to notice like, okay, this day I wasn't able to do this, or I had a bad day or whatever. And it gives you a good way to reference all that and really compare it to the progress you've made. Because I feel like when we don't do that, and we don't have something to really document in some way, whether it's on your phone, on paper, or pictures or video, I think it's hard for us to really recognize the progression that we've made. Because especially nowadays, and especially as a parent, I was talking about this on our stream last night, when you have kids, time goes by. You realize time
Yeah.
flies so quick.
Yeah.
Not only are you realizing how fast they're growing, but you start realizing how the days just start blending into each other, and you really don't notice like the things that have happened. It's not until someone mentions something, or you look back at a picture, that those memories hit, and you're like, I remember that day, or I totally forgot about that. And it's the same thing with our accomplishments and the things that we need to work on. I feel like if we don't have something to acknowledge those days, good or bad, or the accomplishments we've made, whether we failed or anything, it's just the fact that we tried, and that we're keeping it in mind, the effort that we put into it, and what we're doing to either do better or to keep moving forward in a productive way. But I like that. I like that you're taking the time to do that. And I think many people should practice journaling also as well. As a person who was against it, it helped me out a lot. And from hearing you say it and seeing how active and how productive you are with things, I totally agree with you. I think that's something a lot of us should take into account. Could you share a fun fact about you that not many people might know?
Fun fact. I don't, well, I mean, I don't know if it's a fun fact or not, but I am the first in my family to go to college, to university.
Nice.
And I was born and raised in New York City. There's really fun fact. I ran my first marathon to welcome in my 50th year
Nice.
on this earth, which was interesting to say the least. I was always dedicated to my career. And so when it came to starting a family, I started a little, what some may consider a little later in life, especially when you come from a Spanish household. Is like, mija, ¿qué es lo que tú estás esperando? What are you
Yes.
waiting for?
Yes.
And so things happen when they happen, and
100%.
you may not think that it's on your timeline, but it always works out.
Yes.
So yeah, just little fun facts. I don't know how fun they are, but
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. I think a lot of us, Again, I think it's with a lot of people, but I think it's a lot stronger in the Spanish household, that we kind of get that pressure to find something and get started right away, because everything is, you're running out of time, or you're not going to have the money, or you're going to be like
Or the
everything.
energy.
Yes, a lot of it is all that. And a lot of people, they just forget that things are a little bit different. Things are a little different nowadays, where people are more conscious on their health and their time. I believe, like, back in the day, with our parents and growing up, they really didn't have that opportunity to surround themselves with people like we have. Like, we didn't have Gary V's back in the day. We didn't have all these different communities of people being supportive and showing up and telling you could do stuff, and being your cheerleader and things. And I think a lot of that helps us get the motivation that we need to give different things a try. And then especially when we see other people that come from the same background as us, or the same age, or the same situation, starting something from nothing and being able to progress little by little, it gives us hope in the sense that we can do it ourselves too. And I think that that's something that's really rough for a lot of us, because of the fact that we just grew up with a lot of people in our families telling us we don't have the time, or we're too old to do this, or it's not going to work, and all. Like, we get a lot of that, and not enough of the people pushing us to, give it a shot, give it a try. It's not too
Right.
late.
Right. And that's why I've been so public in sharing my running journey, and letting
Yes.
people know that it's okay. Just try it. I started running in high school, because, like I said earlier, I stopped dancing. I stopped practicing dancing during high school. And once your body is used to being active, and then you're not as active, and you're going through your teenage years, and your body looks a little bit different, and you're starting to put on weight in places that you're not accustomed to.
Yes.
I took to running because it was free, right? I'm a teenager. I can't have a gym membership, and who's going to pay for it? Not my parents. They're like, we're trying to figure it out as a family, right?
Exactly.
And so I said, well, I have some sneakers, and the GW bridge is right over there. Let me see how far I can get.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, the first couple of runs were not good. They were terrible. And I could only get halfway. Like, from my house, I was probably maybe 3 or 4 blocks from the GW bridge. And I would only get halfway and back. But then I said, you know what? That's good enough. And I just kept pushing myself and kept pushing myself. And I did it more as a reason to stay fit. But then it became more of a game, like a mind game.
Yes.
Like, how far can I push myself today? Can I make it over to Jersey?
I love that.
Fort Lee and back.
I love
And
that.
then when I did it, I'm like, ooh, that's awesome. Can I go faster now?
Yes.
And it became like a game. And so that part of my life I never really shared until recently, because I still kept at running, but I was one to think, in my late 40s, well, I can't really go into races. I'm not a runner. I can only run, a mile or 2 or maybe 3. I've never entered races. And one day I was inspired. There was a local race. It was a 5K. I had no idea what a 5K was, but I figured, okay, I can try it because I jog. So why not? And my son was probably 3 at the time. And so my partner and my son, they were at the finish line, and I knew they were going to be there. So I had to go real fast so I can, make them proud, and knowing that they were going to be at the finish line. And holy crap, man, it was like so cold. I've never really ran in the winter, and my lungs felt like somebody was stabbing my lungs because the air was so cold. But I finished it, and I came in second.
Nice.
In just the second female to cross the finish line. I had no idea if that was good or bad. I was just glad that it was over.
Yeah, but still, you managed to push through, and that's what I love about all the stuff that you share. Like it's you've been able to see with the content that you share and the things that you post, it's been showing your progression. I remember you sharing how you were first starting training and how, you would share the miles you run and all that. And then it just got to the point that it started showing you going from a person that was just trying to run to now it's like, yo, you run. Like you're always running. Like you're there. Like you can tell, like it's some people just go and they buy the stuff and they take the pictures and like, yeah, I look like I'm about to go do so. You literally go run. You show your runs. You show what you're like before, during, and after. Like, and it's to the point now that there's no denying it. You're a runner. Like, you like to run. Whether you've been in one marathon or 30 of them, it doesn't matter. You can see that it went from being something that you were just doing because you found it interesting to now you're doing it because you actually care about it. You take it seriously. You're training for things. You're signing up for marathons. You're winning marathons. You're placing in certain positions. Like, all those things show that you care about it enough to respect it enough to do your research, to do the training, and to share your story with other people, whether it's to show them that you've made a progression and how far you've come, or whether you're just trying to show other people like, hey, if this is something you want to do, look at me, look at where I'm at and where I'm from. There's no excuse, you could do it too. And that's what I love about it.
Absolutely. I mean, any, it's not going to happen overnight,
Nope.
and it's not going to be easy. And, most runs are going to suck.
Yeah.
But you know what? You will have some great runs and you will have some not so great runs. A lot of them fall in between, but you will see progression. And if you just keep at it like anything else, it's like a muscle. You have no other way to go but up. And I want others, especially in the Latinos community, women in general, women of a particular age, mothers, to know that you too can do it. You can literally go from the couch to running. It's not going to happen overnight. Definitely do your research when it comes. And I've learned so much. I had no idea what's involved in the running journey. And I might do like some segments of I wish I would have known,
Yeah.
before I started running. But it's not an inexpensive sport, to say the least. When it comes to your gear, and as you learn certain things, you want to have certain quality clothes, because it does help with like the moisture wicking. And I even hired a nutritionist, a running nutritionist, to help me be able to finish the 26.2 miles, because a lot of people they hit a wall at mile 20. And I was like, well, if I can do 10 miles, I can do 15. If I can do 15, and that's where I hit the wall. I couldn't get past 15. And I thought first it was a mental thing. And I'm like, I'm having my gels and I have my hydration vest and I'm doing everything, but I wasn't able to get past it. And I said, okay, I got to check my nutrition. And, sometimes the best things that you can do is invest in yourself and ask for help. It's okay to ask for help, because even the best elite athletes have coaches
Yep.
helping them out. So
100%.
I'm not saying that I'm an elite athlete by far, but what I am saying is it's okay to ask for help.
I agree with you. I think that is important for people to realize too. I have a hard time with that also. Some of us but it goes to show that you actually care about it that care about it enough that you went through those steps of analyzing what your limits were, why that was your limit, and what you needed to do or what you could do to pass that and keep moving forward. A lot of people, they would reach that wall or reach that limit and say, you know what, that's it, and I'm done. but you actually put in the work, you put in the effort, you analyze. Maybe it's the stuff I'm wearing, maybe it's the stuff I'm eating, maybe it's the way that I'm working out, like all these things. And you went through the steps because you care about it that enough that you want to actually make sure you're giving it 100%. And that's something that I really have a lot of respect for you for, because like I said, like you can see the progression, you can see the work that you put in and the effort that you put into something, and it's not something that's just brushed off. Like you could tell that you care about it enough that you want to make sure that when you're saying you're in a marathon or you're a runner, that people respect it and they see that you're actually putting in the work to have that title of a runner. And that's a big thing, whether it's doing videography or being a content creator and everything. Everyone goes through those steps where they reach their limit or their wall, and they have to make a decision. Well, so you want to keep moving forward with this and, make sure that you're investing the money in the right equipment and the time into learning the right things that you need to and connecting with other people. And, on top of that, it's also a big thing that when you're trying something new, especially something that you're not really used to, and you're going through the steps of learning, that you ask for help, and you're willing to accept the help and accept the fact that you don't know everything and that there's going to be things you can't do by yourself. I think that's a huge thing as well. Before we get
Absolutely.
into
Also community is
that,
really important.
100%.
You need to find who your tribe is so that they can support you. You have somebody to lean on, or sometimes you can just reciprocate and support them. Like
Yes.
there's different communities that I'm involved in. One of them, when it comes to running, or even just movement, is, I'm not sure if you've heard of it or not, but it's a Swagger Society, and
Yes.
it's actually led by Robin Arzon, and it's been fantastic. And it's where kind of like, where how we met in the Web3 space. So it's Web3 meets fitness meets everything in between. And that community, those group of people, we've been able to really connect on such a level, and their support and being able to just rely on them and for tips and advice, and being able to have some like community with them. It's just amazing. So again, community is really important, because oftentimes there's so much negativity going on and you have to push yourself. But it's even better. You can go far. You can go fast alone, but you can go farther together, right?
100%. Before we get into more stuff of Luna as an athlete, I want to touch on a few more things for Luna as a mother. How do you balance motherhood with your passion for running? And have you incorporated running into your parenting style in any type of way?
Great question. So again, you need that support system. And my partner, he's been amazing, extremely supportive. Um, and my son too. They've been very, very patient, especially last year as I was training for my first marathon. And I want to say too that, just to be clear, you don't have to run a specific distance, which was, to me, I thought that's what determined one to be a runner. You have to do like, these ultra marathons and run every day. And no. If you're outside running, you're a runner. Whether you do it once a week, every day, whether you're running a mile or 100 miles, you're a runner. Okay. And that's one thing that I want everybody to understand. Some people just enjoy it a little bit more, and that's okay. But when it comes to balancing motherhood and running, it's challenging. I will get up early in the morning to get some training in, or as soon as I drop my son off from school, I'm already in my gear. And sometimes I'll have him, okay, we're going to run to school, we're going to jog to school. I'll take him with me running. He did his first 5K with me
Nice.
last year during my training, and he went from just running 1 mile barely, although he is active and he plays sports, baseball, basketball, golf. um, he was kind of like, training with me. And even
Yep.
before that, when he was a little itty bitty, my stroller was a jogging stroller because
Nice.
I enjoyed running. So he would always be on my runs, to the point that when I would slow down to either check my phone or tie my laces, as a little kid, he'd start banging
To
like with
keep
his
going.
legs onto the stroller, like, why are you stopping? Keep going. And he was like my little trainer. So
I love it. I love that. That's always great, especially when you're able to incorporate the kids in what you have a passion for, what you're interested in. I think that's always good. It does help the bonding and the time that you have with them a lot. I like that.
yeah,
What are some challenges and rewards of being a mom who's also active in the Web3 space?
you can't do everything. You can't do everything. And I might have ADHD or something, because my attention span is like this. I get hyper focused and laser in, and then I just pan out and then
Yep.
laser in on something else. Um, so the challenges is, especially with Web3, things change so fast and so drastic in a moment's time. And balancing that, or trying to stay on top of that with work and home, it's a challenge. And I was very consumed in the Web3 space, and I enjoyed it. I really enjoy it. But I have found that I have to um, balance my time. And so I look towards the community, people like yourselves and Tim, Peg, Corso, people within the community, to keep me informed of what's going on and what's the latest. It's a lot. I will miss a couple of things, but I'll check in on Discord and see what's going on. But you can't be everywhere at the same time. So I have to really learn to structure my time, and I'm getting better at it. But I say to myself, um, I'll dedicate X amount of time, you know, to get caught up in Web3 or things like that. But time management is a constant practice of mine.
No, I agree with you. It's tough too, especially when like you mentioned, like it's always up or down. It's always either really hectic or extremely dead when it comes to the Web3 space. And when it's up and things are moving, it's hard to be present and be there every day. FOMO is real. We have the fear of missing out on whether it's information being dropped or some type of virtual event that's happening, or even if it's a real life event, to meet people and see people and have the opportunity either to learn something new or get in on something as it just starts. There's so many different things, and it's hard. It gets overwhelming when you want to be in it and you want to show your love and support for the communities and the people involved. But then it also gets overwhelming because then you feel like you can't be everywhere at once, and it's like you said, you can't do everything. You have
Right,
to pick and choose your battles and how you're managing your time. And sometimes we beat ourselves up about it. Sometimes we can't make it to certain things, or sometimes we can't put in the amount of time or get involved in every single project. So it gets to us a little bit. But after a while, you start realizing that it's hard to realize it, but you realizing you have to admit that you can't do everything and you can't be everywhere all at once. So you have to make your choices, and it does get easier. And the people in the community are always supportive. No one ever beats anybody up or tries to mess with anyone in the sense of like, oh, you weren't here, you didn't show up, why didn't you do
right,
this, that. So that's always a good thing too. It's reassurance of letting them know, like, listen, no matter what happens, we're going to be here, whether you disappear a
right.
day or two, whether it's a couple of months. When you come back, we're right where you left us.
Exactly. And you have people like Dave, or also known as Maximiata, or Jeremy. They're so welcoming and
Yes.
so helpful. I'm so grateful for the community that we're involved in, because like you said, they're always there to lend a helping hand. Even Clubhouse, I would have a couple
Yes.
questions and I'd be freaked out, and I know there's a room of OGs that I can rely on and ask questions, and they've been extremely helpful. And I'm like, gosh, for them to just, you know, help out at a drop of a dime, it's amazing.
That's the best thing about this community. So many people are really selfless when it comes to that, and they do not hesitate to either help educate you on something or even hold your hand on a step-by-step process of how to set up a wallet or how to better
Right.
understand this new thing that came. Like that's one thing that when it comes to the VeeFriends community, I feel like they've set the standard for me of
Yes.
what to expect from a community and the way that people in the community should act, not just as a brand and all that stuff like that. All of that is a plus, but I think what really makes VeeFriends really stand out is the people in the community. Everything else is just a plus. And that's
Right.
what I really love. And it's hard. It's hard to find other communities that are like that. You can get them and they're like that for a little bit. And then sometimes after some time, you start seeing that the people who made the community what it was fade out and they disappear and they go off and they
Yeah.
start their own stuff. But it's those connections, the connections that we make with people. It goes from just being strangers to friends, and then it becomes this little family that that you have online, and that's what I really love about this community, and the way that the people that are in it, such as yourself. Not only is everyone so active and creative, but they're always so supportive of whatever it is that you're doing, and that's a big plus for me when it comes to that. You mentioned before how, like, one of your earliest stages of getting into running was you wanted to just work out and get fit, and it started turning into something else that you were taking more seriously. What is some of your or what are your training routines like for marathons and everything? Like, when you first got started, what were some of the first things that you struggled with, and what were some things that you found to help you out, not only with getting better at running but also preparing for a marathon?
So let me ask you this, and I ask this question all the time. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time,
Yeah.
right? So baby steps, right? What was challenging for me is, again, and for a lot of people, is just building the miles, building your base miles. And I knew that there have been other people who have successfully completed a marathon, like my best friend, Cynthia. She was one that in high school wanted to cut gym class. And she went from the girl that used to cut gym class, sorry, Cynthia, I just had to put it out there, to she's run maybe 6 marathons already. She has 3 stars, which is, this thing in the marathon world. And she's been slowly but surely pushing me to, hey, maybe you should try a half marathon. And then it was like, well, maybe you should try a full marathon. So I relied on people like her. I've read books. Robin has a great book out. It's called Shut Up and Run. And that's basically what it is. Just shut up and run. But there is a program, a regimen, if you will. I personally followed the Peloton program. It's called the Journey to 26.2. It's a 3-part program. And it was grueling. You have these different instructors in your ear telling you about pace, telling you about distance, how to properly warm up, how to properly stretch and cool down. And it was rigorous. It was boring at first. But then I started realizing that I was getting better at it. My breathing, I can control my breathing. My heart rate wasn't all over the place. And so then once you start doing that, you just start going into this rabbit hole. I started going to specialty stores that just focus on running shoes. And good God, you want to talk about running shoes? Just go to one of those stores and they'll talk for hours. I had no idea that you had to switch out your running shoes throughout the week. And I'm like, what? I need more than one pair. You know how expensive this is?
Yeah.
And they were telling me the reason why. And I am like, okay, well, that makes sense. All right, I'll be back. Let me collect some more coins and I'll come back.
Uh-huh.
And it makes sense. You don't just, sometimes I'm one to sort of challenge the information that I'm given, but I have to respect those that have already come before me and that put in the work. And
Yes.
they're saying, listen, it may not work for you, but this is what worked for me. And it's all trial and error too, right? So what I did, the common rookie mistake is I would skip a couple of my training runs and then I would try to make them up. And everybody tells you, don't make them up. And I'm like, nah, I can handle it. Dude, biggest mistake ever. I was literally crying doing this drill. So it was later on in the day. And I was in so much pain and I was so frustrated and I wanted to quit. And I went into my Swagger Society family and I got on there and Robin came on and she's like, no, you don't quit. You don't make up runs. Take a day off. It's okay to step back sometimes and say, all right, I'm burnt out. And so you start learning your flow. And it's all with time. You can't beat yourself up because that's where it gets frustrating. And it's a mental game. It really, really is a mental game.
What are some of your biggest accomplishments as a runner so far?
Oh, the marathon, for sure. For sure. And I am not sure if and when I'll run another marathon because it is time consuming. It really is. It's me personally, I ran over 300 miles in training.
Wow.
Just so that I can run a marathon. It's intense to say the least. But it's doable. You can definitely do it. And so that's a major accomplishment. And what I did was I enjoyed all 26 miles. It was kind of like a parade, if you will. Like everybody is cheering you on. The energy is electrifying. No other feeling like that. And knowing that my family and friends were going to be throughout the route. I didn't know where exactly, but I knew that they were going to be around the route. And when I saw my son, and I was so excited to see him, and he had the face that I saw, his facial expression when he saw me, I've never seen that facial expression. And I was surprised. And after my run, he was being such a doting son. He's like, Mom, here, let me help you. And he's much taller than me. He was trying to help support me and everything. And he was like, so proud. And that's the first thing he said. He's like, I'm so proud of you. And then I was like, oh my God, that means so much because I learned so much from him and he gives me so much energy. And to be able to have him there and witness me finish that marathon and to instill in him that we set goals and we accomplish them.
Yeah.
We want to quit, we get frustrated, but we just keep moving forward. And sometimes things don't happen like you want them. And that's okay. We pivot, we adjust, and we keep moving forward because forward is a pace. Whether you're walking, skipping, jogging, or running. It's a metaphor. Just keep going. So yeah, that's my biggest accomplishment, to say the least. And also to be able to represent different running organizations. Like I'm an ambassador last year and this year for the Philadelphia Marathon Weekend, and also an ambassador for the Philadelphia Distance Run. So those are local races here in Philly, and just being a member promoting fitness and health and motivating the community. Those are things that I'm proud of.
I really like that. I like that one of like the biggest accomplishments that you have is, you know, seeing your son and having him, you know, root you on and be there for you at the finish line. I think that's a big thing, seeing having our kids see us accomplish the things that we're saying we're going to be doing, and, you know, making sure that they know that they have to follow through with the goals that they're setting for themselves because they're capable of doing it, and we're leading by example and showing them that, you know, again, if we can do it, they can do it. I think that's a really big thing, especially for being a parent, especially for a mom. I always believe that no matter what, mom beats dad all the time. I feel like no matter what, in the kid's eyes, mom is the world. It's always mom over dad. Dad's there to show up and beat the monsters under the bed and in the closet and all that. But anything else, it's always mommy, and I always agree with that. So to be able to see, you know, mom push through and accomplish those goals and everything is a big deal, I think, in a kid's eyes, you know. So I congratulations on that, and, you know, for doing the marathon, and also for being a part of what it is that you entered into, and now being an ambassador for all these things that you have going on in Philadelphia. I think that's like a big step. That's a big move. That's something you should really be proud of.
Thank you. And if anybody is looking to run any of the races, hit me up. I have some savings codes for you guys. So
Yes, anyone who is watching and listening to this, whether you're watching live or whether you're listening to a pre-recording, any information to contact Luna or learn more about what she has going on is going to be in the description to wherever you're watching or listening. So check the description, go give her a follow, check out what she's doing, show her some love and support. Before we keep moving forward, what I wanted to ask you next has to do with the Web3 space. You mentioned how you're a part of all these different communities and how they're very supportive. Some have to do with, you know, running, others have to do with other stuff. But what initially drew you into the Web3 space?
Gary,
I think that's a lot
Gary
of people's
V.
answer.
Let me tell you, I had no idea who Gary was. I remember I was struggling in my career, and there was a conference that was being headed by Tony Robbins. And I'm like, oh, that'd be cool to go to that conference. And I saw some type of advertising, and I'm like, I'd love to go. And it's here in Philly. So I went for Tony, but I stayed for Gary. Does that make sense? Like, all I know is that they announced, and they had other speakers too. They had announced Gary V. And all of a sudden, the crowd went wild. And it was almost like a concert. Everybody started rushing the stage. I had no idea what was going on. And I was like, I was moved by that energy that I even got up from my chair, and I'm like, I'm going to the stage too. I don't know what's going on, but it's about to be lit.
Yeah.
And then he just started, well, if anybody knows Gary, he's very expressive and colorful with his language. And I was like, oh goodness, you know, I'm a New Yorker, but this is like over the top. But I was like, just listen to the message. He obviously is here and he's got something to deliver. So what is the message? And long story short, I applied a lot of what I learned that weekend, not only from Gary, but from the other speakers, into my career. And I had the most success and increase in sales like no other years in my work, in my career. And I started following him on Instagram, and slowly but surely he kept mentioning about Gather ETH. And I would listen to his podcast while I'd be training and running at the gym. I would listen to Gary Vee's podcast instead of music. And he kept saying, you know, you wanna get some ETH. And I'm like, what the hell is ETH? And what's going on? And I don't know what ETH is. And the more I found out about it, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. This has to do with like Bitcoin or something. And I don't even know what that is, but I remember somebody like 10 years prior coming into my store saying, can I pay in Bitcoin? And I'm like, this guy wants to pay with Mickey Mouse money. Like, what is this? And so I went down the rabbit hole, and I was like, well, if nothing else, I remember Bitcoin, and I can see, I saw the potential in less than 10 years from the first time I encountered that conversation to the Web3 space. And I said, well, let me just get some ETH. I'll buy some ETH, and I'll just will it off to my son, right? Leave it in the will for him. And then next thing I know, he's talking about NFTs. And I'm like, nah, I'm not getting into that. I'm just buying ETH. And the ETH was going up and up. And I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. And so then the Discord, and that was something else. It's like Alice in Wonderland when you're in Web3. You don't know.
Yes, they just keep going. They just keep
Yes,
going.
yes. And so I found, I met so many great people like Amanda and Schmooper Girl and
Yes.
Ron, and oh my gosh, so many, Vinny and Tatiana and Dylan, and just that whole circle of friends. E22, Kid Jet. My God, those were the days. You really have me now going back.
Yes.
And I'm always a quiet one. I just listen. I'm not much of a talker, if you can believe that or not. But just listening to them, and yeah, that's how I was introduced to Web3.
Yeah, I think Gary was the entry point for a lot of people when it comes to Web3. He was really loud about it, really adamant about it. He was always pushing people to buy ETH, to get educated, do your 50 plus hours of research, and get involved. And the Discord is just something the Discord gives me anxiety sometimes. I literally had to stop the Discord because there's always so much, whether if it's not information, it's just all over the place, and it's never in a bad way. But like I mentioned before, it does get really overwhelming because not only is it a lot of information, but it's so many people that are willing to help and willing to care and willing to support that it's hard to pick where you want to put your focus on and just devote your time into, because you start one thing and then something else comes up that gets your attention. You're like, I kind of want to get over there. And then again, FOMO kicks in and you don't want to be the last one to learn about something or get involved. So like you're all over the place. So I totally agree with you. And you're not the first person who's mentioned the Tony Robbins event and Gary being there. A lot of people that I've spoken to have mentioned the same exact event, and that's how they first saw Gary. Like they always saw him online or something, but that was the first time that they saw him in person. And a lot of people said similar things, where after that day, that weekend, that week, that month, all they had in their head was Gary and everything that he mentioned and all the things that he was saying to get involved in and to give a try and to just put yourself out there, and it's not too late and you have time. And so all those things, I just see a big connection with it, from him being your entry point into Web3 and NFTs and all that, to utilizing what he mentioned and shared in that conference to help you in a productive way and to move forward and just get better results for whatever it was that you were doing. I see that everyone has that in common.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to ask you next, as far as for the Web3 space, like, do you think there are any misconceptions about Web3 that you'd like to clear up with people, being that you've been in it for quite a while now? What, as a mom and as a female and as a creator of content and everything, and a person that's a part of all these different communities, you've been able to get a little bit of a taste of every part of Web3, from buying ETH and getting into NFTs and all that. What is a misconception that you had yourself, or that you feel many people have, that now, after being in it for quite a while, you got a better idea of it, that you feel people just don't really understand too well?
Well, I thought that this space was really, really filled with, and it is to a certain extent, with degens, degenerates, and
Yes.
scammers. And I am a slow learner, and I'm very cautious. But with my exposure and being able to speak with different people outside of Discord, whether it was, different platforms, just knowing that these are real people, there are people that really care. There are moms out there. There are, CEOs out there in the Web3 space, and it's not something to be ashamed of. Um, and I thought it was going to be like my little secret, like, oh, I'm not going to tell my friends that I'm in this little space, because at first I didn't understand it. And I thought it was just something for, more like millennials or the younger crowd. But no, I've met so many people from different backgrounds all across the world that are always willing to help and educate. You do have to be careful and be very selective on who you trust and the information that you get. But the biggest misconception was that it was just a bunch of just people not being productive, and they're very successful people of all different backgrounds and ages, and they're actually contributing to this ecosystem that is only going to continue to evolve. And yeah, so for me, I thought it was just like a degen platform.
No, I agree with you. I was thinking the same thing too. When you really don't understand the mechanics or the technology that backs Web3 and blockchain and crypto and all that stuff like that, it's very questionable, because from the way it's presented, it's like you mentioned before, it looks like Mickey Mouse money. It doesn't make any sense. It's not until you get a little bit of skin in the game and you create your first wallet and you buy either your first crypto coin or you do your first NFT exchange from one wallet to another, that when you see the process and you actually experience it, it makes a lot more sense. And then you're starting to understand the possibilities behind it. And then that's where your mind just goes crazy with like all these different ideas of what it could be used for, how it can be utilized, why it's good over this and why it's better and safer. And then at the same time, you go down that rabbit hole of like, okay, the same way that this could be used in a good way, there's also other people that could do it in a malicious way, and they could go about it in this way and that. So it educates you. It does make you like a little nervous at first, because again, there's so much to learn, and then it's online. Technology every day is being updated and upgraded and changed, and it's hard to know whether you're safe and all
Right.
your information safe and no one can access your stuff, or if you're clicking the right link, or if you're signing up for the right. So all that stuff comes into play. But then when you have people like you've mentioned that are in the communities that are willing to teach you and help you and go through those steps of holding your hand and letting you know, look, this is the basics of it. This can happen, but also make sure that you remember that this can also happen and keep your eye out for this and that. So I think that does help out a lot. And I do agree with you that it's a space that has a lot of potential for a lot of great ideas, and at the same time it's stuff that not only in a financial way can help you and that you can benefit from it, but also, like I said, like there's different possibilities that you can utilize yourself. Like right now, there's many different ideas that people have for NFTs or projects that help people get more involved or have more security in what it is that they're buying or that they own or that they're trading with one another. And it's just crazy. It goes from being like a crypto thing to gain money to now artists are using it to now creators. There's people that use it for collecting cards. There's other NFTs. There's other people that utilize NFTs to use it with housing. Instead of using a lease, they use an NFT to sign a lease. Like it's things like that the more and more I got active into the community of Web3, and I did more transactions or got more involved in all this stuff, that you started learning that there's a lot of things that can be utilized, and that it goes to show how it could play a major part in all of our lives in the future. And it's just, I think it's a good thing to have at least the basics of
Right.
the knowledge when it comes to it.
Right. And then you have even like the big brands also
Yes.
doing stuff like, Gucci.
Mhm.
There's a watch brand that I was impressed that they actually have your warranty information in a form of an NFT. And it was so funny because I was like, NFT with this watch brand? Are you kidding me? And all my coworkers was like, well, what does that mean? And I said, oh, let me tell you. And it's amazing to see major players um, putting some skin in this space. And we're still early. We're
Yes.
still early.
Yes, I agree with you. We are still early. And it's great. It's great to see all these other big brands, take it, at least try to utilize it in some way, because it does show there's plenty potential to it, and there's a lot of things that people can benefit from it, whether you're a business, a creator, or whether you're just someone who's utilizing crypto or NFTs or anything in the blockchain. I do agree with you. As far as hold on, I already asked this one. Let me clear this up. I know that we're pressed for time. I'm trying to be very respectful of your time. I know we got to get out here in a few, so I want to ask just a few more questions.
Sure.
What advice would you give to other mothers who are interested in getting into running?
Mm.
Not even just mothers, but just anyone in general, any like female or any male who, again, either looks at it like it's too hard, or they can't run more than a mile, or they don't have the necessary gear that they need, or they don't know anything about nutrition, or any of those things. Like, what are some tips that you would give, or advice that you would have for anyone who's interested in trying to take running up?
I would say definitely have an action plan. Figure out what it is that you want to accomplish, right? And we don't have to overnight say, I'm going to run a marathon, because it's a whole process, right? But just take it one step at a time. Um, Put pen to paper, set goals, and most importantly, give yourself grace. Give yourself grace to the point that you can celebrate your wins, and also celebrate uh, your failures, if you will, because that's when we learn. If you accept something that didn't succeed, that's yours. You have that power. Don't let anybody else take it from you. That is your experience, and that's what's going to make you a better person, mother, athlete, son, daughter, you name it. Take that experience to heart, good, bad, or ugly. Um, and and you're not gonna all figure it out in one day. I'm still learning. I still if you're not learning, you're not the smartest person, right? There's always something to be said when you can learn. I learned from my son. He teaches me a lot of stuff. So just give yourself some grace. We have this cool technology at our fingertips, a lot of great information out there, but do what works best for you, because everybody's schedule is different, everybody's body is different, and just make sure that you protect your space and honor yourself, especially a lot of mothers out there. We have that mommy guilt, but we cannot pour from an empty cup. So if that means you have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning before the kids so that you can get that run in, or that workout in the basement, whatever it is, give yourself that grace. It's going to be hard at first, but I can assure you, the more you practice it, the better you'll become.
I love that. And before we get out of here, Luna, I want to say thank you for taking the time to be on. Thank you for sharing and letting us know more about you. I do understand we have to cut a little short today, but we did touch on a lot of stuff. You were very informative. You shared a lot of information. But before we get out of here, is there anything that you would like to share with us, or let us know, whether it's something personal that you would like to say to the people tuning in and listening to get a better idea of who you are, or anything that you're currently working on or have coming up that you would like to share with people, any new marathons that you're getting ready for, or is the marathon season over, or how does that run? I'm not a runner, so So I would love to run, but I got to give it to you. I would much rather work out and bench press like a whole bunch of weights than go running. I don't know what it is, but I cannot last more than like 10 minutes on a treadmill. So like I give it to you for that. But is there anything that you have coming up that you would like to share with us that you have in the works?
So going back to that, I used to do strength training. And when I picked up running again, I'm like, oh my God, I'd rather pick up some dumbbells, because it's hard. But anything new is going to be hard, right?
Agreed.
What I'd like to share is I'm here to support everyone. I like to be a cheerleader. It's my spirit animal. It's in my DNA. If there's anything that I can do to support you or the audience, please hit me up. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, send me a personal message or DM in any of the platforms. So running season for the fall is the training season is starting right now. So there are a couple of fall races. They start as early as September for full and half marathons. This year, I've dedicated my year just to half marathons. So I'm running 6 half marathons. So that's 13.1 miles. And I'm halfway there. I've already done 3. Some of them are virtual, which are brutal because you have to carry all your gear, your hydration, and your fuel. But it can be done. So I have 3 more coming up in the fall. The first one coming up in September is with Philadelphia Distance Run. If anybody in the area is interested in running the half marathon, and they also have other races, hit me up. I'd love to connect with you. I also have a code for that. Then I have the Rocky Run, which is a lot of fun. And I am going to take on the Stallion Challenge. So it's also a half a marathon, and their medals are fantastic. And you see everybody dressed up in Rocky theme as they're running. It's so much fun. And then my last half marathon is in November with Philadelphia Marathon weekend. So within that race, they have different races. So yeah, I also have a code for that. So hit me up if you guys want any information or any tips. I'd love to connect with you all and be, a cheerleader for you. Why not? And it doesn't have to be running. It can be dancing. It can be swimming. I'm not a strong swimmer, but you know what? I'll cheer you on.
I love that. So anyone, again, if you're tuning in and you're listening, wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast episode, all the information to check out Luna and any of her profiles and get more information on what she's doing is going to be in the description below. Make sure that you go there we go. We're back. Something happened. But make sure that you go and give her a follow, show her some love, check out what she's doing, root for her on her next marathon, and get more involved. She's already said that if you want to get more information, she can hook you up with that and hook you up with some codes and set you up for your next marathon. So anyone who's looking to run, make sure that you go give Luna a follow, show her some love and support. And again, thank you all for tuning in. We have at least 27 people tuning in right now. Thank you all for showing some love and support and kicking it with us in the chat. And yes, Luna, thank you for the time. It's been a pleasure. I really do appreciate you stopping by and sharing more about yourself and educating us more on this whole running lifestyle of yours. And if there's anything I can ever do that you have going on that I can help spread the word and show some love, please let me know. You can also DM me anytime, and I'll be willing to help out in any way that I can.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I am so humbled to be here. Thank you all. And thank you so much for having me be a guest. I'd love to come back and chat some more, and you keep doing your thing because I see a lot of great things in your future, my man.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, Luna. And thank you everybody again for tuning in. Have a great rest of the day. And like always, I love you guys. Stay safe. Peace.
Peace.